If you bought a BMW in the late 1980s or early 1990s, you remember the analog simplicity of that dashboard. A row of physical switches you could hit without looking, a steering wheel that shook slightly over frost heaves, and absolutely no menu to navigate before you could turn on the seat warmer. If your retirement portfolio holds any broad European equity fund or global luxury index, BMW sat inside it. And the decisions in this story already changed what that position is worth. The current M5 weighs 5,390 pounds. That is heavier than a Ford F-150 pickup truck, the best-selling vehicle in America for over 40 years. A truck most of you grew up watching your fathers haul lumber in. There was a line buried in BMW's functions-on-demand rollouts that let the company charge rent on hardware a customer had already purchased at the dealership. The engineers saw it. The dealers saw it. The board approved it anyway. One subscription, one backlash, one brand promise broken. Martin Puris, the ad man who coined "ultimate driving machine," said the phrase would last forever, as long as BMW kept building cars true to that formula. The 2025 M5 is more than 70% heavier than the 1985 M5 that inspired the tagline, and BMW just cut its automotive profit margin guidance to between 1% and 3%, while China sales fell double digits in a market that grew over 20% around it. This is not a tariff story. This is the documented record of a company that spent 40 years perfecting a formula for what a great car feels like, then spent the next 30 years quietly dismantling that formula one defensible decision at a time, until the driver became the least important variable in the equation. I had this story half-written under a different angle, focused on the China sales collapse. Then I found the subscription pricing documents and the pension freeze filings side by side, and the story changed completely. Two questions worth sitting with before we go further. If BMW, the company that defined driver engagement for your entire adult life, couldn't resist turning its own cars into subscription platforms, what makes you confident the companies managing your retirement accounts aren't doing the same math with your money right now? And if a brand this strong can hollow itself out over 3 decades without a single quarter looking like the catastrophe it was becoming, how would you even know it was happening to your own holdings until the guidance cuts started? If the company in your index fund can charge you rent on something you already own, and you'd have no way of knowing until the stock price catches up to the reputation damage, subscribe. One documented story every week. The reason BMW cannot answer the weight question today was decided on a design studio floor in Munich in 2001, and it was decided by a rotary knob that replaced 20 physical switches. The console that ate the dashboard. BMW spent $920 million on capital expenditure increases between 2019 and 2024, pushing total annual capex to 12.58 billion euros by the end of that period. Money poured into electrification, digitization, and platform complexity, while the original driving formula received no comparable investment in preservation. The 2001 E65 7 Series, designed under Chris Bangle, introduced iDrive, a single rotary controller connected to one central screen that absorbed nearly every function previously handled by a dedicated physical button. The idea looked clean on a whiteboard: fewer switches, less visual clutter, one system instead of 20. The problem surfaced the week cars reached driveways. Adjusting cabin temperature required navigating 2 menu layers. Changing a radio station meant 3. Reviewers at the time described the learning curve as genuinely disorienting for owners who had chosen BMW specifically because its controls never democratic can glance. BMW added a menu escape button in 2003, and admission the original interface trapped drivers inside its own logic. The system got meaningfully cleaner by 2016, but the underlying habit iDrive revealed, the instinct to absorb more functions into more software with every generation, never went away. By 2021, BMW merged the instrument cluster and infotainment screen into one continuous curved display. Physical controls continued disappearing. Somewhere in Seoul around this same period, a woman who had bought a BMW 5 Series discovered that the heated seats she had used every winter since purchasing her car now required an $18 monthly subscription to activate. BMW's functions-on-demand rollout hit her market in 2022. She lost access to hardware already installed at the factory, hardware she had already paid for at the dealership, unless she agreed to rent it back indefinitely. She wasn't the only one. Cox Automotive surveyed buyers that year and found the large majority agreed the subscription model existed to extract more money, not deliver more value. Most said they would consider leaving the brand entirely. Meanwhile, the weight kept climbing, and now it was climbing fast. The E60 M5, launched in 2005 with a screaming 10-cylinder engine, weighed 3,869 pounds. The F10 that followed jumped to 4,123 pounds once BMW added turbocharging, all-wheel drive, and a thicker layer of standard equipment. Then came the G90, the first plug-in hybrid M5, at 5,390 pounds. That is 2,237 pounds heavier than the original 1985 M5, an increase larger than the curb weight of a Honda Civic bolted to the roof. Every addition had a defensible reason: safety regulations, customer demand for equipment, battery mass. Taken individually, none looked reckless. Taken together, across 3 decades, they describe a company slowly replacing the single quality that made its cars irreplaceable with more of almost everything else. And while BMW was adding weight its drivers never requested, it was also preparing to add a fee structure its customers would actively revolt against. You don't know this yet, but the board member who will publicly walk back BMW's most controversial subscription policy is about to sign off on keeping the broader subscription architecture intact, the decision he will spend the next 2 years trying to explain away in quarterly calls. The rent on your own steering wheel. In 2020, BMW rolled out functions on demand across multiple markets, a system that let owners activate certain features after purchase for a recurring monthly fee, rather than a one-time factory option. Adaptive cruise control, high beam assist, adaptive suspension, even a welcome light animation projected onto the ground beside the driver's door. All of it sat behind a digital storefront, either as a subscription or a one-time unlock, depending on the feature and the market. The heated seat subscription became the detonation point in 2022. $18 a month for seats already physically wired, already installed, already paid for in the transaction price. The backlash wasn't abstract, it was personal. Forums that had defended BMW through the iDrive years, through the Bangle styling wars, through the reliability complaints of the mid-2000s, those same forums turned. Longtime owners posted photos of their dashboards from the 1990s, rows of simple toggle switches, and asked a question BMW's marketing department had no good answer for. When did owning this car stop meaning you owned this car? Set the numbers aside for a moment. Picture a specific Tuesday. A retiree in Hampshire, someone who bought BMWs for 30 years, who chose the brand because its controls never insulted his intelligence, opens a letter from the company pension scheme. I'll be honest, I didn't expect the number to be this specific. Unite, the UK trade union, documented that BMW's pension scheme closure could cost individual workers up to £160,000 in lifetime retirement benefits. Across BMW's 4 UK plants, 93% of workers voted in favor of strikes, on a turnout of 72%. BMW reported profit growth of 8% to €6.9 billion during the same period the pension cuts were announced. The company's original transitional offer to affected workers was £7,000. After sustained pressure, over 80% of Unite members accepted a revised package, £22,000 spread over 3 years, or $25,000 paid into the replacement defined contribution scheme. In the United States, BMW froze pension assets on June 30th, moving all American workers at the Spartanburg plant, 11,000 people, into a defined contribution plan the following day. BMW had already stopped offering pensions to new U.S. hires in 2012. The record shows something different from what the subscription reversal suggested. In September 2023, board member Peter Nota told trade press BMW would no longer offer seat heating by subscription. The heated seats went back to being a simple factory option. It was the right call. It also came only after a full year of competitors publicly pointing at BMW as the textbook example of what not to do to your own customers. And the reversal was narrower than the headlines made it sound. Adaptive suspension, high beam assist, safety camera information, adaptive cruise control, the welcome light ground projection. All of it still sits behind the same functions-on-demand paywall today, either as recurring fees or one-time unlocks depending on the market and the feature. BMW didn't abandon the subscription model. It amputated the most visible symptom and kept the underlying architecture running. If the company that defined what driving should feel like can quietly monetize hardware you already paid for, and the reversal only covers the one feature that made the news, subscribe. That pattern doesn't stay in the automotive industry. The memo exists. The subscription pricing structure is still live in multiple markets, and the pension numbers landed on the same balance sheet. The weight of silence. BMW's 2025 operating profit fell 11.5% to €10.2 billion, the company's lowest figure since the pandemic wiped out global supply chains. The automotive division's profit margin slipped to 5.3%, well below the 8 to 10% corridor BMW had publicly committed to as its own internal standard. Combined, BMW and Mini deliveries in China fell over 13% that year, while the overall Chinese car market grew by more than 20% around them. Every domestic competitor BMW had once outpaced in that market, BYD, NIO, Li Auto, was gaining share while BMW contracted. Then 2026 arrived. First quarter revenue dropped 8.1% to €31 billion. Battery electric deliveries fell 20% as subsidies dried up simultaneously in the United States and China. China sales fell another 10%. BMW cut its full-year profit guidance once in the spring. Weeks later, it cut the same guidance again. The automotive margin target, once 4 to 6%, now sits at 1 to 3%. Group profit before tax is expected to decline significantly for the full year. In the first half of 2026, BMW sales fell 6.2% to just over 1 million units. Rolls-Royce deliveries dropped 9.8%. M Performance and M Model sales, the cars that carry the spiritual DNA of the original driving machine, fell 6%. This is not a new story. The pattern BMW is living through right now has a name in the premium automotive sector, and it has predecessors. Jaguar Land Rover announced its Reimagine strategy to go fully electric by 2026, then watched sales stumble as the transition timeline proved more aggressive than the markets could absorb. Alfa Romeo is targeting fully electric by 2027, with a one new model per year cadence. Genesis, Hyundai's premium spin-off, is replicating BMW's brand positioning playbook almost move for move with the G70 through GV80 lineup. Every one of these companies is chasing the same instant torque, software-defined, subscription-capable vehicle formula BMW pioneered. And every one of them faces the same question BMW still hasn't answered. What exactly is the premium you're charging for once the powertrain is identical to everyone else's? The 5,400 BMW workers in the UK who lost defined benefit pension access never appeared in a single quarterly earnings call transcript. Their transitional payments, £22,000 over 3 years, amounted to roughly £600 a month temporarily. After the 3 years expired, they were on their own with whatever the defined contribution market delivered. BMW's CEO, Oliver Zipse, who left after 35 years with Milan Nedeljkovic succeeding him in May 2026, never publicly addressed the pension shortfall and the subscription revenue strategy in the same sentence. One decision was made by executives who would collect their own contractual retirement packages regardless of the outcome. The other was lived by workers on the plant floor in Oxford, Swindon, Hams Hall, and Goodwood, who opened their pension statements and did the arithmetic standing at the kitchen table. The board had the Unite ballot results, 93% in favor of strikes, for 6 weeks before the revised offer was tabled. No one on the call asked to revisit the original £7,000 figure publicly. 11 days before the second guidance cut, BMW's annual conference in Munich featured Oliver Zipse declaring that the Neue Klasse launch proved pioneering spirit, innovation, and courage deliver results. The first half sales numbers that followed told a different story entirely. Verdict. The subscription architecture Peter Nota said BMW was walking back in September 2023 is still generating revenue in multiple markets as of mid-2026. The heated seats are gone from the Paywall. The broader structure, adaptive suspension, cruise control, high beam assist, safety camera data, the welcome light, remains intact. That is the fact. Everything that follows explains why it matters. 1. BMW mistook addition for improvement. iDrive was supposed to simplify the cockpit. Instead, every redesign buried more functions inside more menus, and that same instinct to add rather than subtract quietly spread into mass, into torque, into styling complexity, and eventually into a revenue model that treated a finished car as an unfinished transaction. The E65 7 Series in 2001 was the first car where BMW chose the screen over the switch. 25 years later, there is no switch left to choose. 2. BMW mistook monetization for innovation. functions on demand turned a car customers had already purchased outright into a platform for indefinite extraction. And the heated seat backlash proved something the subscription models in other industries have been slow to learn. Customers can absolutely distinguish between a genuinely new capability and an old one with a toll booth welded across it. The sole owner who lost access to her own heated seats didn't cancel a subscription. She lost trust in a promise BMW had been making since 1975. 3. BMW mistook mass for progress. A 1985 M5 weighed 3,153 pounds and became a legend that engineers still reference as a benchmark 4 decades later. The 2025 M5 weighs 5,390 pounds, heavier than the truck America's fathers drove to the lumber yard. And reviewers now spend as much column space on its curb weight as on its lap times. The signal was there. It had been there for some time. Every generation added pounds. No generation asked whether the added mass was worth the lost feeling in the steering. I've stopped assuming a board reviewed what it voted on when the pension and subscription numbers occupied the same page of the same filing. This is why. BMW is pinning nearly everything on Neue Klasse, an electric platform named after the cars that saved the company from extinction in 1959. The first model, the iX3, began reaching European customers this spring, promising up to 560 miles of range and a design language BMW says represents a complete reset. Whether it can win over Chinese buyers who now have dozens of cheaper domestic electric alternatives sitting on the same showroom floor is still genuinely unresolved. An electric motor doesn't care about the heritage. It can't rev. It can't reward a heel-toe downshift. And every competing automaker on the planet is chasing the same torque figures from the same battery. Chemistry. If you hold European automotive exposure in your IRA or any consumer discretionary fund weighted toward legacy premium brands, the question worth sitting with is whether the executives making platform decisions at those companies have read this same playbook and recognized their own reflection in it. The documents are public. Draw your own conclusions.